Okay, let's look at the terminology of logical arguments. Okay, look at number 1 and number 2. Are they true or false? Number 1. This, the subject, the grammatical subject, talks about the complement, the word red. This is red. Well, in fact, the word red is written in blue. So, no, it's not true. It's false. Number 2. Red. The word red is written in red. Is it true? I don't know. I have no idea what this means. There is no sentence. There's no declarative statement. There's no subject. There's no verb. It could mean red is a color. It could mean red is not a color. I have no idea. The point is here, something can only be assigned a truth value, either true or false, if and only if it's a declarative statement. A declarative statement is basically a simple sentence with a grammatical subject and a verb and something else. We usually divide declarative statements into subjects and something that's non-subject, and we can use the word predicate. Let's look at the next one. Grass is green, green is blue, therefore grass is blue. Well, each of these is a kind of sentence. I'm going to use the word declarative statement. So a declarative statement is a sentence that is not a question, and it is also not an order. So grass is green, green is blue, therefore grass is blue. It kind of makes sense, but it seems a bit strange, doesn't it? Well, let's think of the logic of it. Grass is green, grass is the subject, green is the predicate. In the second premise, green is the subject and blue is the predicate. So what we have here, we have the word green is repeated. It's the subject in the second premise and it's the predicate in the first premise. So what we can do is we can cross both of those greens out and we reach the conclusion grass is blue. Now we have some problems with the truth value here because is really grass blue? Well, in your language, grass is probably green, but your language is not the only language. In some languages like Welsh, grass is actually blue. If you look at the Japanese traffic lights, we have the colors red, yellow, green, or do we? Is it really green or is it really blue? Let's look at the argument a bit more carefully. So the first one, we have a premise, grass is green. Then we have one more premise, grass is blue. Then we have this line. This line is where the reasoning takes place, this aha moment when you move from the premises to the conclusion. So above the inference bar is the premises, and below the inference bar is the conclusion. And the inference bar, this is where we infer, this is where we jump from the evidence itself, the premises, to the conclusion. Okay, let's more formally look at the same argument. So we have two premises followed by a conclusion. The conclusion follows the logical indicator therefore. The reasoning is deductive because we're going from the universal case in which all grass is green. The truth value is false for English speakers because in general in English, all grass is not green. Evidence? Well, this is based on my world knowledge, looking at the world through English. We can be a bit more scientific about colors and measure the color in hertz and get an exact point on the color scale. And then we can realize that there is some area between blue and green where different languages and different people may assign either blue or green to a particular frequency. If we look at the argument itself in terms of algebra, we have A is B, B is C, A is C. So what happens is the repeated term B, which occurs once in the predicate position in premise 1 and once in the subject position in premise 2, that can be deleted, leaving the two end terms A and C to make the conclusion. is another argument. If Hillary is speaking, she's lying, therefore she's speaking. So the same structure. We have two premises, followed by a logical indicator, and then the conclusion. In this case, the reasoning is deductive. Here we're going from a universal case, and it's saying if Hillary is speaking, she's lying, and that's saying that every single time Hillary is speaking, she is lying. The truth value, well, I've put the word uncertain. I actually think it's false, but again, this probably depends on your political viewpoint. Evidence, well, there's no evidence presented. Interestingly, this one is actually a formal fallacy, and let's look why. In the premise one, we have the first part and the second part. The first part we're going to call the antecedent, and the second part we're going to call the consequent. So the consequent is she is lying. And then the second premise repeats that, she is lying. So what happens here is the second premise is saying, yes, the consequent of the first premise is correct, is right. So the actual term for this is affirming the consequent. And affirming the consequent is a special kind of fallacy called a formal fallacy. You can look at a very simple proof of the fallacy. Here we have P, which is the antecedent, and Q, which is the consequent. And we can see P goes to Q, we affirm that Q is correct, and therefore we made the conclusion of P. This argument also has an informal fallacy because it's actually a direct attack on Hillary. It's a personal attack on Hillary's character, basically saying she is a liar.